Okay, I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but there's a lot of things to tell you actually, so let's get started. A little bit about me. If you don't know me, my name is Robbert Hock. I'm a freelance Sitecore developer, Sitecore MVP, founder of this user group, co-organizer of Sitecore User Group conference, and you can find me on Twitter. So actually the sessions that I attended at the first day was actually the developer keynote, a session about XConnect, Sitecore and Azure, and SXA, Sitecore Experience Accelerator. And on day 2, I visited the Path Analyzer session, Boss's session on hacking. I'm not going to cover that because Boss will. A session about Sitecore Habitat and how to make it your own home. And something about the new Sitecore publishing service, which was built in .NET Core. So for the guys of you who didn't attend the symposium, there are already 3 videos online. I just pasted in the links here. We'll put the slides after the presentation on the SUGNL website, so you can actually check it out. It's a session by Michael Seifert, the opening keynote, the closing keynote, and analyst panel. So the first session was actually the developer keynote by Lars Vroon Nielsen. He's one of the founders of Sitecore, and currently I believe he's the CTO still on Sitecore. Let me see. So the great thing is that Sitecore is now actually embracing new tools and frameworks into the platform. They're now actually supporting NuGet, but also importing new technologies into their products, like React on the Path Analyzer. And Sitecore is now also more focusing on standardization. So actually in A2, they're now making use of the dependency. They actually import using the dependency injection from the .NET Core from as a built-in DI container. And they're actually moving more and more towards microservices. We can see that in the new publishing service, which was actually developed as a modular package or a service, but they're also more and more implementing microservices into the new Sitecore Commerce Server product. They're actually focusing on better tools for APIs like XConnect. But also like the data exchange framework on which Jeroen will focus on at next. Lately they also released this migration tool where we can actually easier upgrade our Sitecore instances from 7.5 on until 8.2. And they're actually more embracing the open source ecosystem with tools like Sitecore Rocks. It was already there, but it's now open source, and like tools as Pathfinder. And finally, Sitecore now has built-in NuGet support. So there are actually 2 NuGet feeds where we can find the official Sitecore packages, the feed 3 version and the feed 2 version, and you can actually visit the link where you can actually browse all the packages. Sitecore decided actually to put 2 different versions of on there, the no references and the default with references. So I would advise to actually, if you make use of not of your internal NuGet server, but Sitecore officials one, then I would actually recommend to use the no references. If you have, for example, the Sitecore kernel NuGet package, you only get that assembly into your references instead of all the because the Sitecore kernel has reference to Sitecore logging to a lot of other DLLs. So and they were actually supporting Sitecore packages from 7.2 and up, and they have a couple of module packages as well on there. For example, for the email experience management, web forms for marketers, and a couple of providers for the data exchange framework and dynamic CRM. And finally, we have some standardization. Sitecore has released Helix, and Helix is a set of official guidelines and recommended practices for Sitecore development. So who's heard from Helix yet? Okay. Not everybody. Who's heard from Habitat? Okay, more. So why Helix? For example, enterprise companies, I heard it from Bas, they need some kind of recommendations from Sitecore how to do proper Sitecore development. You guys probably are working for Sitecore partners, and everybody's setting up their own solutions. So by getting some kind of standardized architecture and conventions and guidelines, we will make sure that everybody implements Sitecore in the same way. So they have a lot of recommendations in there, and Helix also talks about development process recommendations to actually build, test, and maintain Sitecore implementations. So this is actually the Helix architecture, and as you can see, it consists of three layers, which is the foundation layer, a features layer, and a project layer. And they're actually telling you this architecture for a multi-tenant, and a multi-tenant is something that you need to think about, like, okay, this is a business organization, for example, within a large company. Maybe you only have one business organization for a client, where you can develop actually multi-site solutions, and it will give you all these best practices, recommendations on how to set things up, etc. So what is Habitat then? Because a lot of people knew Habitat, a lot of people already knew Helix. Habitat is an example project that follows the Helix principles and recommended practices. So it's an example project. If you want to find out more about Helix, there's this website, helix.sitecore.net. Go visit it, read the documentation. And actually, there was a Sitecore Symposium conference workshop, and there is like 4 hours of Helix workshop online already. And there's also a big YouTube Habitat video session. So go check it out. The source code of Habitat is on GitHub, and you can actually there's one website, habitat.sitecore.net, but they also have now a second one, like legal.demo.sitecore.net, which is also built on the same, but it has a different team. On the dev keynote, this was maybe less interesting, but still I wanted to show you. Sitecore gets a lot of feedback from either from their internal employers, from customers, from partners, and they're getting all this feedback. So now they're actually coming up with scaled agile framework, which they're internally hosting, and so that will actually form some kind of a product backlog for them. So we can now have more influence on their backlog and what they're actually doing, instead of just that they're actually coming up with these new features and. Yeah, it's the question if the market wants those features. So the new feedback channel, sitecore.uservoice.com, and there's still the old one is still there. So I think it's moderated as well currently. go check it out. And then Peter Brinkman, technical, yeah, he's a technical marketing guy from Sitecore. He's also from the Netherlands. He talked a little bit about the community, about Sitecore Slack, about this Stack Exchange effort that the community is actually putting up. So currently already 1,200 people on Slack. I don't know if you have numbers on, like 900 people already on Stack Exchange? Yeah. So those are great numbers from the community. And then the second session on XConnect. That was actually given by Mitchell, who's one of the product developers on XConnect. So what is the meaning of XConnect? Is to collect and act on any information about any individual from any channel at any time. So XConnect is basically an API that collects all these information from all these channels and puts it into Sitecore XDB. So whether it's a CRM system, whether it's somewhere some kind of a beacon in a museum where you actually walk towards to, it collects information and can put it into the XDB through this XConnect API. And why would we want that? Is actually to analyze visitor behavior, what they're actually doing. And the outcome is that we want actually to be able to personalize their customer experience better based upon all their interests. So this is a sheet of the XConnect architecture. As you can see here, we have XConnect client APIs in front of the collection databases, and tools like Power BI or Azure Machine Learning can through OData they can actually use this REST service where they can actually get data from the XDB through this XConnect client API. So XConnect is coming in Sitecore version 8.3, which will probably be released somewhere around January 2017. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Oh yeah, Todd also showed us, it was a lot of code. I'm not going to repeat the session. There was a lot of code. He showed us how to actually store, how to create a contact, how to create interactions on that contact, how to actually register page events, goals, trigger goals through the XConnect client API. And it seems way more easier instead of using this MongoDB.NET provider and to actually register stuff in XDB. Okay. Sitecore and Azure. That was actually the third session of the first day, and I think that this is what's going to change all the deployments in the future for Sitecore. This will be it. So it's a little bit hard to pronounce actually. His name is Kieran McAuliffe. He's one of the Azure architects in the Sitecore product team, and he gave this this presentation. And it's about time that actually Sitecore stepped up their cloud game compared to other vendors. So he began this session with the Microsoft bot framework. He created the Skype bot, and he was actually talking through this bot. Hey, Sitecore bot, let's create an experience platform deployment for me named Live on Stage. And this bot reacted, and underneath it, it did a lot of stuff in Azure, and it does that through ARM templates. I will come back to that later on. So the first thing that actually is changed is that Sitecore will now support, and this is all coming in 8.2.1, and Rob will actually probably demo it and talk about it a lot on the next session. I will just give you a brief overview. Yeah, Redis cache. Yeah, Sitecore XDB wasn't compatible with the Redis cache yet. So, and because of the fact that the session end wasn't supported, the session end event, and which is required for XDB. So, from 8.2.1, it will be supported. The Redis, I haven't worked anything with it, but Redis cache seems to be more performing and scales better in than other caching systems such as SQL or Mongo. Redis cache will be supported from 8.2.1 as well in the cloud as on premise, and it will be actually the default session state server. Then he showed some application insights, which will run in Microsoft Azure, and it gives you a great overview of how all your web servers are actually performing, how many calls they're getting. You get this great overview with it. It gives you this high and detailed levels of your performance of your whole Sitecore architecture. It's a very powerful tool, and I think it, like I mentioned it before, it will change the way that hosting will be done. I think more and more companies and also end clients will move to this cloud instead of on-premise. If I read Rob's blog post correctly, it's not yet globally available, right? It's not in Europe, or no?
So you can use it, but your data is going to move over
to the data center.
So
exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise you have to wait.
Thanks. Alerts. In Sitecore we can actually set all these kind of alert rules. For example, if you can actually set alerts on Sitecore counters. If a certain Sitecore counter is high, for example, there are a lot of requests on the access denied Sitecore counter. You're probably either getting DOS attacked or you're getting hacked, whatever. You can actually set an alert on that and actually block those requests, which is kind of cool. So he also showed how you can actually walk it through the Sitecore log and actually set alerts on specific errors that will happen, and actually automatically shooting emails to the correct persons instead of setting that up yourself. It's just configuration. So Azure Search, due to the more intensive partnership that Sitecore is now having with Microsoft, Sitecore will support Azure Search with the upcoming release. With Azure Search, you can actually just see all your Sitecore indexes here, and you can actually just drill down in it and search on specific stuff inside the index. I don't know who's familiar with Look. If you want to see something in the Lucene index, so that's all. We can all do that with Azure Search. And if I'm correctly informed, Sitecore will come up with a Azure Search provider. So we already have content search for Lucene, we have content search for Solar, and they will also come up with content search for Azure Search. Okay. And then Sitecore will come up with these Azure Resource Manager templates, where they will come up with some pre-configured configurations for, okay, this is a pre-configured configuration for a CM machine, this is for a CD machine. And Sitecore will actually also deliver those PowerShell scripts to actually run those deployments to Azure, and to automatically that you'll automatically be able to actually okay, spin up a CM machine, spin up a CD machine, or an entire farm. The great thing about Azure Cloud is that, for example, this is you pay as you go, so you don't need to invest a lot on machines like you do on-premise, but you pay as you go based upon the load. So Sitecore is moving more and more to a consumption-based model. Azure scaling. So he showed these cool features on where you can actually scale up and scale out your entire Sitecore architecture. For example, if a server hits a certain CPU percentage which reaches above 6%, just spin up a couple of new instances, and Azure will do that for you. And you can actually also lower it down when it reaches a certain amount again. So if you have a heavy traffic, it can immediately spin up a couple of machines. So the conclusion is actually with minimal complexities, we can actually get up and running very fast through the Azure Marketplace. You will have your total control over your own over the delivered ARM templates. You can actually adjust them, extend them, whatever you want to do with it. Sitecore will also do something for managed services. If you want to say, hey, we don't want this to do it ourselves, then hand it over to Sitecore. Not yet available. And to enable XDB in the cloud is it's very easy to do now. So check out Rob's blog post, which gives a pretty good overview of what I just talked about, but also what was talked about Sitecore Sim, in case I might have missed something. So the last session of day one, Sitecore Experience Accelerator. So I'm already halfway through, I see. So pretty on schedule. Kern Herska Nightingale, part of the product development team in the UK. He presented on the Sitecore Experience Accelerator. And where does the Sitecore Experience Accelerator have impact, especially for just regular websites? If you want to do single page apps or a lot of system integrations, it won't help you. So why SXA? I don't know, you guys are probably all familiar. Hey, we do this phase one, we have a lot of development hours, and business is waiting until it's delivered on the acceptance. They can do the content entry, and then we have this working website, and then phase one, hey, the budget is it's gone. So with the Sitecore Experience Accelerator, Sitecore actually bought this tool from Cognified and reworked on it. So now it's their own product, but previously it was called SendGarden by Cognified in the UK. So now business users have way more impact. They can already configure Sitecore. They already can configure a website, which then can be handed over to the UX guys, and they can actually do the CSS and HTML. They can extend the HTML actually. That was so the time to market will be much faster. And yeah, I mean, Sitecore wants all their clients to actually already start working on phase two, like with the marketing automation stuff and like doing real customer experience. So what is in SXA? So we have some 70 flexible components. There's a big site scaffolding stuff happening under the sheets is PowerShell. We can do multi-site management. It's really for business users, but I think I don't know who's not a developer here. Okay, so a couple of people. So you guys can already do a lot with this tool. So the Sitecore architecture is that, as I say, I don't know if you can see it, but this creative exchange is creative exchange is the way that we're actually exporting this whole clicked page already, and we export it to the UX guys, and it's multi-tenant. So again, the business departments inside the company, and each business department can do a lot of websites. It's multi-site as well. We have this great toolbox inside the experience editor where you can actually drag and drop components. So that's something new. So a very important thing is page designs and partial designs. Creative exchange as well, and there's an optimizer for optimizing your assets. Like I said, it's very PowerShell driven in the beginning when we actually create a new business unit inside Sitecore, and under that we will create a site which will create a contract structure, configuration, site teams, etc. So in Sitecore, when we can insert a new tenant, and we can actually select okay, for this tenant, for this business unit, we can actually select a couple of features which every website will actually benefit from. And under that tenant we create, for example, we have the Centraal Beheer tenant. They might have a couple of websites, centraalbeheer.nl and maybe .com, whatever. So we create a lot of websites, and for every website, everything we check, for example, we want to support forms, we want to support a lot of stuff. All this will generate a whole structure with PowerShell underneath. And again, per website we can choose a different theme, which will be developed by the UX guys. So business users can actually inside the experience editor create partial designs. Yeah, I will come back to that later actually. So, but business users can actually create this wireframe look and feel where they can already create it. This entire website from the toolbox with all these 70 components in there. It will currently, SXA is supporting the 960 grid system, and they're actually working already on the Bootstrap and Zerp Foundation grid systems. So that's what they are going to support in the next versions. And like I already said before, page and partial designs are very important. So a business user can actually create a certain design. In this case, it's for a blog, and we have a couple of partial designs, like a header, a footer, and a blog, which is content. And then we can add all these renderings into the specific partial designs. So sounds really familiar, like normal Sitecore development, but we can have multiple page designs for. We can develop multiple page designs. So normally you create a certain design for the home page, you create a certain design for the news overview page. But with this, the end users are way more flexible and say, hey, now we want a different page design for this certain page. And it will also support rendering variants. So one rendering, multiple variants. For example, this is a page list component, and this is a carousel variant, and this is like a details and image variant. So just for one component we can have multiple variants, which is quite good. This is again an overview. So partial designs are all these individual things, and it will all come back into one page design. Already talked about Creative Exchange. So when a business user already has clicked this entire website, it can export the CSS, JavaScript images and hand that over to the UX guys. They will actually start styling the website. They can add CSS classes as long as they leave the HTML intact. So and then it can be imported again. You can actually also create your own SXA compatible renderings. I'm not going to discuss this slide, but you can actually read it back later on.
Did they say something about pricing? Because I think we
That was probably one of the most asked questions. This was in the developer track, so they didn't talk about it. Yeah.
It depends on your consumption-based specialized model. And I think if you have professional, it starts at maybe 17K. That depends on the size of your environment.
Yeah. 30% of the Sitecore licenses. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Day 2. Half an hour already through. Path Analyzer. A session by Alex Shiba and Adam Weber. So what is the Path Analyzer? It's some kind of a forensic tool for digital data analysts. And it focuses on sequence analysis of XDB data. So when a website visitor he walks through the website, he will gain all these goals. He will trigger these goals, triggers events. He will walk through to the different pages. And pattern all this data will be important into the XDB, and Path Analyzer actually visualizes that data. It's already available since Sitecore 8. I don't know who has worked with Path Analyzer for clients or just demoing or for clients.
I'm looking at it for some clients at the moment, but mostly trying it out myself.
Okay. Like I said, yeah, it's all about getting scoring engagement value for your customers. So they enter on the home page, and then they go to the register page, and a goal is triggered. So, and these are all the interaction that a visitor does. So a little bit how it works. So if somebody enters the home page and exits, hey, that's a value of 0. So when another one comes and he goes to products and specials and then demo, he scores this 100%. A third visitor comes and he goes to about news and just exits again. He won't reach any points, and he goes to the demo immediately from products to demo. He gains points. So for example, we have 4 visits, and it will collect a score of 200. So if you traverse to a certain path, each individual page will gain points. And as you can see here, the green dots are actually that they actually scored points. These are actually the red dots. So this one had one visit, but it didn't score any points. So we can actually optimize these pages. So that's how it works in a nutshell. So what's new in 8.2? They actually removed Silverlight. They have a new front end, and we reworked user experience, all based on React now. I will show that later on what technology they're actually using. New dashboards, new visualizations, new filters. So this is actually what it looks like now. This is 100% pure JavaScript based. We're actually using a lot of React stuff in it. React is very good in actually updating one certain thing in the DOM. So this is actually the dashboard overview, where we have a couple of different views, where we can actually see, okay, these certain pages have gained so much. We had so much visits. They gained so much value. There's a lot on where we can actually filter on. So this is actually the radial view, where you can actually zoom in. Under the covers, they're actually using this D3.js visualization. Again, all Java based. And we can have some kind of a tabular view, which marketers actually like very much. We can export these this tabular data, and we can actually select a couple of experience maps or page maps, where we can actually say, hey, for this certain campaign or for this specific goal, what are my best performing pages and what are my worst performing pages. I really like this tool, and that's why now I'm actually challenging you, Gert, because I think that there's a lot of value in it, and I think developers need to be aware of this, and I think it will make a good session for SUGNL in the future. So
I'm particularly interested in the marketing functionality.
Yeah.
So you could actually, my view on it is that you can actually use it to visualize customer journey. So the marketing funnel actually link page visits and goals to each other, and then visualize that using the path analyzer. So that's really things we're looking into at the moment.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I'm really intrigued by this tool.
And you missed it. One of the best views were actually more the horizontal and the vertical view.
Oh.
Which actually, well, makes more sense to like normal people.
Okay. So how did they build it? It's one of JavaScript. And they're actually using new technology because it was a dev track. Yeah, they actually did a little bit how to start with React. Not going to repeat that as well. There are a couple of great Pluralsight courses on React. They're also using Redux, D3S, and Webpack, and I believe that Webpack is like a module bundler for modules, and I believe that one interesting thing is that actually React was I believe it's developed by Facebook, or yeah, so they actually Facebook is using React heavily, and also is Instagram, and for some reason I have the assumption that someday Sitecore will as well use this technology to actually start making the experience better, and maybe yeah, redevelop the whole content editor as well. So if you wanna know more, check out React.js and Redux. Build something with it, and if you done something with it, you can actually shoot an email back to Alex Shiba, as@sitecore.net. He's very interested in that. Boss session will be coming up as well. Sitecore Habitat. Sean Holmesby from Hedgehog. It is a session on Sitecore Habitat, make it your home. Like I said before, Helix versus Habitat. Helix is the principles, and Habitat is just an example project. Ruud van Valier, he actually cancelled this meeting, and I know that he's using Habitat as some kind of the base, but be careful with that. Make it your own. So when actually Habitat came out, there was already someone, hey, I've gone live in record time with my site on Sitecore Habitat and Sitecore as well. Yeah. So yeah, for me as well, I put the Habitat into the community. Hey, this is how you should actually develop your websites, and everybody jumped on the Habitat. I don't know if you have taken a look at it, but it was actually just promoted incorrectly by Sitecore. This is already something I probably talked about. Again, the layers. These are actually Helix layers. So Sean talked about, but yeah, how does this look like in the Sitecore landscape? So because, hey, this Habitat solution is just using Sitecore MVC, but it's actually using html.sitecore.field, and then it enters the field's name. But we're all using like these object relational mappers, like Glass or Synthesis or Fortis. What about other tools? Hey, I mean, it was given by somebody from Hedgehog, so actually they're actually Habitat is using Unicorn as the default as the serializer because it's open source, and the guys from Hedgehog, of course, said, hey, but we're going to make a Habitat repo which is actually supported by TDS. And what about dependency injection and making use of NuGet? It's not in Habitat. So, and what about other search implementations like Coveo or Solar? These are actually my worst pictures that I actually took on on Sitecore Symposium. I don't know if you can actually see it, but this is like the solution in Habitat. We got 91 projects in there. And then on the project level, what the guys from Hedgehog actually did is that they created these Sitecore Habitat website masters. Every feature has its own TDS project as well. So since TDS 5.5, they have a great feature in there where we can actually say, hey, on this master we will create a package which consists of all these items in all those features, so we don't end up with 91 packages from TDS, because that would be a pain in the when we actually should actually deploy that. So that's something. Yeah, I'm a profound user of TDS. Also use Unicorn, but so that's why I was very interested in it as well. So Unicorn and Glass don't support this NuGet version v3 yet, only v2. So use the official NuGet v2 version for now. And if you do, again, use the no references. Sean showed then some Habitat branches with Glass and Coveo. He promised to actually already upload them on GitHub, which he didn't. He was kind enough to actually send me this screenshot, but, because I had a bad picture as well. He also developed some FX scope rules, which you can use in your Visual Studio, which actually can validate some, and probably he will change it to Helix as well, which actually can validate if certain features have references to each other, because yeah, they should actually live in this alone in this module. Habitat and dependency injection has the dependency injection in 8.2. Richard Seal has a great blog post because Sean talked in his talk about using dependency injection, and I have to have a look. Yeah. he set up this pipeline to be able where every feature can actually now I have to say it correctly. Every the dependency injection container was actually passed into this pipeline, and every feature actually registered the dependencies in there, but it actually goes against a good use of dependency injection, because then we actually passing in this container into all the features and the functionality. Dependency injection, you actually want to have one composition root, and that's mostly global ASACs or just an initialized pipeline. So what actually Richard came up was actually that, and I have to say it correctly again because okay, every feature can actually use now a configurator where actually the Sitecore service, where they can actually register their dependencies in the services collection. Go check out this blog post. I know it sounds a little bit not understandable, but you have to read it because it's important actually where you actually register the dependencies for that specific feature. Okay, 45 minutes now. So this is actually already the last session I attended, Sitecore Publishing with .NET Core. Stephen Pope talked about the Sitecore Publishing. It's a new standalone ASP.NET Core service. It aligns with Sitecore's strategy for the future. Not only the publishing service, but like I already said, Sitecore Commerce will go into Microsoft's microservices as well. Yeah, the old publishing mechanism is slow, especially if you have many items. I don't know what is the largest number you guys ever work with in terms of items, but it can be slow. And the whole new integration module adds a couple of speed dialogues to the Sitecore instance if you use it. You don't need to use it because publishing still works on the default publishing still works on 8.2, but you can use this publishing service and it will replace the old publishing mechanism in Sitecore. So Stephen, in his talk, he first walked through why it was so slow. Because if you publish one item, first it will look up all these restriction fields like okay, publish from, publish until, never publish, etc. So all these items need to be read, and for each of these fields inside the item, the standard values need to be checked, and we'll iterate through all the base templates, and we need to check the workflow and walk to the ancestors and check item for more languages, related items, blah blah blah. So for publishing some kind of a small tree, we end up with a huge number of items. I don't know if you guys ever wondered it, why there's so many items. I did it as well. So he explained that. So what did they come up with? This modular architecture, like I said, microservices. It's a separate publishing service. Currently you need to host it in an IIS website because there was some kind of a bug in .NET Core, which hasn't been resolved yet. So currently the publishing service cannot run like a vendor service. And they actually focus on okay, we need to redefine this whole architecture, and we need to support some kind of a bulk operations. So read all these items in bulk instead of just field by field and languages, and kind of a technical story it was, but they managed to actually speed up to increase actually the speed with an awesome improvement. Under the sheets, when you actually publish this specific item, it will create some kind of a manifest for every publishing target. Then it will add all these steps into the manifest, and it will actually promote certain stuff if it has changed or not. And it does that all in parallel, and then afterwards, and as you can see here, there were a lot of things. It goes very fast, and it raises the publishing job. So they actually managed to say, so instead of all these thousands of items that they're actually pushing over the wire, now they actually they figured out, okay, just only these 11 items were actually changed, and just publish that in parallel. This is the new publishing dashboard that is coming, and if you have a small number of items, you probably won't see any active jobs because it goes so fast. Go check out this documentation, and if you're on 8.2, it could be a serious service to consider. And check out this blog post by Jonathan Robbins, which gives you a great overview of the Sitecore publishing service as well.
Is it open source?
Nee. No.
Here's the best one-liner there. They have like it's free.
It's free, yeah. You don't need any license.
The other one is that the Sitecore website, if they did a full republish, it took 3 days.
Yeah.
We brought it down to 1 hour now, and they're still improving it now.
Yeah.
Half an hour or something like that.
Yeah, they had like 400,000 items, I believe, on Sitecore.net or something. Yeah, 400,000. And they actually normally took a full publish or republish. It took 3 days, and now it took them like half an hour. So that's quite the improvement. Then I'll give there's something also to already taking a look in and to prepare yourself for the next SUGNL meeting, so you already can ask Jeroen the good questions. So go check out the data exchange framework and have a play with it. And it actually is designed to actually to exchange data with Sitecore and other systems. And this is not something was talked about on Sitecore Symposium, but there is a Yeoman Sitecore Helix generator. I haven't tried it out myself, but you can actually create the initial scaffolding to start sitecoring following the Helix principles. So if you got Yeoman, you can actually say, hey, create me a Helix feature, and it will configure your feature based on Yeoman questions. And it also has support for TDS as well, to actually create some kind of a Helix feature structure with TDS already. So that can already speed up your setup time of your solution in case you all want to jump on the Helix bandwagon. So. And Sitecore Symposium. I don't know if you guys are enthusiastic as me, but next year it's in Vegas, so October 16 till 19. So be there. And that's it. So I don't know if there are any questions. We can do it later on because I think Bas already wants to start with this presentation. First a drink. No questions. Okay. Thank you.